thanks very much for talking to us today.
I'm excited.
And we're in this amazing location right in the middle of London. This is the Ebony Horse Club.
Yeah, we're in Brixton. So just over there is one of the estates where there's been a lot of trouble, and there basically are a lot of kids around here who don't get any time to have fun and just play and live life. You know, they may have parents who've had a lot of issues and may not be present anymore. So they come down here and they get to ride and they work with the horses, and it's a fantastic setup. I just love the fact that it's where you wouldn't expect to find it. So it's a very neat little space. It's always spotless when I come here. It's so tidy. It's like the neatest, cleanest yard I've ever seen. And they've made use of the arches under the old railway line. And
yeah, we're kind of tucked under one of those at the minute.
And the horses are really happy.
Yeah.
So that makes me happy.
I know, I think they're about to be fed. They're all kind of poking their noses out there. Well, thanks very much for talking to us about the book. This is the perfect place to do it, of course, because it is a kid's book, The Racehorse Who Wouldn't Gallop, which is your first book for kids. Why did you decide to write for that audience?
Well, my first work of fiction, but my brother says that my memoirs are completely made up. So he says I'm good at writing fiction. My brother's got 3 kids, and they are nearly 10, 8 and 5. And essentially, when you've got nibblings, I think you want to tell them stories.
So nibblings rather than
nephews and nieces, yeah, nibblings, yeah. And so I wanted to make up stories for them that they would enjoy. And Charlie, who's my heroine, is sort of loosely based on Flora, because, you know, she's got 2 older brothers. They tease her for having thunder thighs. She's really intuitive, actually, with horses and dogs. She's got a fantastic way with animals. And it allowed me to create a heroine who is a bit different and realises that that's okay. It's all right to be different.
I mean, I wondered about the common ground between you and Charlie as well, because, you know, your upbringing and hers, obviously, she comes to have a horse of her own. She doesn't at the beginning of the book, but that's and that's kind of how the story unfolds. But obviously, her connection with animals is something that you've always had, especially horses.
Yeah, and I think also she's a bit outside the set at school. And I definitely would identify with that. But, you know, they've all got mobile phones and they're on Snapchat and WhatsApp and they're posting everything onto Instagram and Twitter and what have you. And she doesn't understand that world and doesn't get it. And I do think for some kids, that is the big divide now. It's not whether you wear drain pipes or flares, which it used to be in my time. And unfortunately, I made the wrong choice there.
Which was?
I turned up in flares, and that was bad. Yeah, no, that was really
fatal.
Bad. Yeah, fatal. God, it was awful. I never really got over that. No. And even when you take them in yourself, you can't.
Oh, no, that can never be done accurately.
No. Even if they come back, I might struggle to wear them, you know. Just for that, the emotional scars haven't healed. But yeah, I think now it's what phone have you got, and have you got the latest one, and are you on this and are you on that? And it doesn't finish when you get home from school either, because I think that chat all goes on and you're still in the gang or not in the gang, even at home. So I think there's something there that's just interesting to me, but she is conscious that she doesn't quite fit in, but equally I think she's quite a strong believer in that having an individual identity is a good thing.
I mean, I think the idea that animals and sport are a way to connect children, a way to improve children's lives, and a way to kind of help them feel good about themselves really comes through in the book. And obviously, you know, that those are beliefs that you've kind of talked about previously in your other books as well. I mean, specifically kind of walking, obviously in your book, Inspired by Ramblings. Do you think that it's just as important for kids as for adults?
I do, actually. I think there's a lot that you can learn through trying to play in a team and therefore getting the best out of your teammates. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you concentrate on making the person who's with you look the best they've ever looked or perform the best they've ever performed, actually your own performance lifts. So I do believe very much in that. And I think on a team, for any sport, you don't actually have to like each other, but you do have to work together. So you're still going to pass the ball to whoever's next to you, even if you don't like them, and you will still be there to catch it if they're likely to drop it. You will still back them up, you will still support them. And I think there's a role to play, even if you're not the sporty one. You can be the tactician or the nutritionist or the motivational speaker, or you can scout out the opposition. You know, you still got something you can offer. So a team is bigger than just the people on the field. And I like that as a kind of way of, you know, I try and seek that in everyday life, not just for 15 boys playing rugby.
Yeah, well, that's what they say, isn't it? That kind of engaging with the sport as a kid or as a teenager, it actually improves your ability to work as part of a team in other situations when you get older.
And sometimes when you see that amazing team success, like the Great Britain hockey team winning gold at the Olympics, you see how they all work together and how those that came out of retirement, well, Krista Cullen came back from retirement, Kate Richardson-Walsh came out of a sort of self-enforced retirement because they believed in that unit. And they would say to you, they weren't the most talented players there, but they worked the hardest together. They understood each other the best. They prepared the best. They were fitter than they'd ever been, and they believed it. And I do think there's a lot in that. I think, and I want to believe it, even if it's not true. I like it as a story.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are really important messages to get across, particularly to young girls. And obviously, I would have thought this book is going to engage a lot of young girls. Yeah. And that the idea of a little girl and her love of horses and ponies, that's a perennial subject. But it seems like actually there's a lot of research now that suggests that actually equine therapies and that relationship can be really, really beneficial.
Well, this place is a really good example of that. They have a lot of kids here who might have difficulty talking to adults or indeed other children, but they'll talk to a pony or they'll talk to a horse. And there's one little boy I've met here a couple of times now. His mum just says the difference in him over the last 6-7 months is extraordinary. And she knows he's happy when he's here. And I do think that there's that sense of, here is an animal that's bigger than me and stronger than me, and I'm going to try and persuade it to do what I want to do. But you can't do that unless you're patient and you're kind and you're showing the best of yourself and you're consistent and all those things that a horse would respond to. And they won't judge you. They'll just reward you for asking in the right way. And I like that. I think that's all. Those are all good lessons as well. And the sense of regularity that you've got to muck them out and feed them and groom them and clean your tack and that sort of, there is the boring stuff has to be done. And I think you see that in great sportsmen and women as well. Andy Murray didn't get to be a double Olympic champion and a 3-time Grand Slam winner without working really hard at the boring stuff. And it's the boring stuff that allows you the odd glamorous, return on an open top bus and a parade through through a city. But it's the boring stuff day in, day out that gets you there. And you can't take shortcuts to that. Not with sport and not with animals, I don't think.
And what about with writing? I mean, tell me a little bit about your writing process. Is that one foot in front of the other, or?
Yeah, I like it. When I get into the rhythm of it, I love it. So I get up in the morning and go and walk the dog. And while I'm walking, obviously I'm thinking. Then I sit and write. Normally for 2.5 hours at a time. Stop, have a coffee, write again, 2.5 hours. Have lunch, write again. Take the dog for another walk, write again. And then you've done a lot in the day. And I don't set myself targets. I mean, I was walking the other day with David Nichols and he was talking about, when he gets writer's block and he once used this computer program that starts to delete the words.
Oh, I've heard about that. Brutal.
Exactly. You don't want to do it. No, and he said it.
Nichols.
He said it was terrible idea. And also then you just start typing anything because you just need to get the words
desperate
out.
to keep it going.
So I never got to that stage. There were a couple of times when I had to stop and really think, where are we going next and what's this character likely to do? How will they respond? How do I want to reach this point where her brothers might come round to being supportive? How do we get there and how awful do they have to be before you see the good in them? But there's quite a lot in there about body image. And she's a girl who is built not dissimilarly to myself, so she has rather large thighs. And I remember as a child being terribly conscious of my legs and thinking, God, if I had thin legs, I'd be happy. I really thought that.
This is even before the days of the thigh gap.
Yeah, the what?
The thigh gap.
What's that?
The thigh. Oh, don't ever search it on Twitter.
No,
it's terrible business.
I don't have a gap between my thighs, if that's what you mean. And
the aspirational thigh gap that now all of the young girls are expected to want to have. Yeah.
Well, she definitely doesn't have a thigh gap. She has powerful legs.
And they can be very useful, Charlie's powerful legs.
Yes, they're absolutely essential. But there's one of my favourite bits is where her mother gives her a talk about women with powerful legs. And she says, look at Serena Williams and Beyonce and Hillary Clinton and Angela Merkel, and what do they all have? Powerful legs. And I wrote it in December. And then there was that period where I was really worried that Bernie Sanders might get the nomination for the Democrats instead of Hillary. I thought, what if Hillary's dropped out of the presidential race and Hillary's sort of insignificant by the time this book comes out? But luckily that's not the case. So.
How are Bernie's legs? Do we know?
I don't know.
They're not much reported on.
I don't think men get their legs really analysed in the same way.
Henry
as
VIII.
women.
Now he was all about the
he
power
was about
of the calf.
power legs. Yes, and the calf. Yes, I had somebody today, a man, tell me that he had large legs but very slender ankles. I said, that's lovely. It was in a radio interview. I was quite surprised.
Well, it's always good to theatre of the mind. You've got to paint a picture, haven't you, for people?
I thought, well, he's clearly very conscious of his legs to even know that he's got slender ankles. Do you know what I mean?
I know. Well, yeah. I wouldn't. I'll have to start measuring the men that I know, and indeed myself.
Yeah.
I read that there was a quite a long time where you'd written for newspapers and things like that, but you didn't think that you would ever write anything long form because you didn't have the patience. What changed, and why did you stop? Because this is 3 books in, or something around about that
I've
for you?
written 2 memoirs, which would be big chunky books, and then obviously this is a little bit shorter because it is for kids. I genuinely didn't think that I would have the concentration, the discipline, or that I had enough to say. And then I got talked into writing My Animals and Other Family. And as soon as I could compartmentalise it into every chapter in that is a different animal, I essentially then wrote 12 or 14 short stories. And then for Walking Home, because it's based around ramblings, again, in my head, it was 12 or 14 walks.
Kind of geographical, isn't
with
it? Yeah.
people, it's geographical, and there's a kind of thread of me and my brother trying to go on this walk together, which obviously is a complete disaster. But with this, it's the first one that had to be interconnected. So it was one big story. But actually, once I got going with it, I wrote more than I needed to and then cut out. And I got some kids to read it early on, and they said, you need to tighten up the beginning. You need it to happen quicker. So it now does. It rattles along.
I mean, there's a connection, isn't there, in all of your books with both the animals in your family and your family themselves. And I felt that, you know, in the 2 previous books, obviously, but also in this one. Are they a kind of constant source of inspiration? Yeah,
definitely. So obviously the dog in this sleeps on her bed, and she tries to take him to school and that kind of thing. Well, that definitely would have happened in my world. Although actually we never had small enough dogs to put them in a bag and try and take them to school. But I sort of fantasise sometimes when I go to the Olympics of packing Archie in my bag, and would he be all right when we get the other end? Would he enjoy it? No, not really. So there is that, and I do find it's very easy to write about animals. In a way, I find it probably easier than writing about people, although I quite enjoyed the bit that seems to make kids laugh a lot is that their mother, Mrs. Bass, can't cook. And she thinks she can, but she can't cook. So they love that. And the kids will say, oh my God, and you made her make courgette cake. And it was disgusting. I said, yes, because she can't cook. Now that's because I can't cook.
Okay, well
I really can't.
This brings me very neatly, Claire, to asking about your baking skills, which you know I'm going to have to do because...
I've never baked a cake in my life, and I wouldn't... Why would you make bread? Why would you make bread when you can buy bread?
Right. So not a baker?
Not a baker.
Because there are some interesting odds on you taking on the bake-off today.
Do you know what? The weird thing is this has all happened while I've been in Rio, and then I come back and it's all bake-off, and everybody's asking me about bake-off, and I don't know what I'm meant to say, because to me it's just a bit... It makes me laugh. I'm hugely flattered to even be associated with it, but I like watching bake-off, so why would I want to present it? I like watching it.
Okay.
And I'm sure I will still like watching it, you know, whoever ends up doing it, but I won't enjoy watching it if I'm doing it. It takes all the fun away.
And how was Rio? Obviously, you're just back.
Yeah.
How was it this time around?
It was really great. I was very concerned that ticket sales would be a problem, and they were actually, particularly at the Olympics, but once for the Paralympics, once they dropped the price, they managed to get an audience that would never have been to events like that before and would never really have seen live sport before. So it was much more representative of Rio. And I really loved both of them. I mean, the Paralympics for me has a special place in my heart because I think it's got a much bigger impact than just sport. And it matters to me. And I think, you know, to give Channel 4 credit, they did it amazingly well. And then the BBC, for the Olympics, they have a reach the like of which no other channel can get. So 9 million people watched the hockey team win a gold medal, and I love that. And the sports that normally would be considered, you know, minority sports, so whether it's gymnastics or cycling or trampolining, or hockey or show jumping were suddenly prime time sports because of the time difference. And that's just brilliant.
I think there was a bit of that in 2012, wasn't there? Because I think you'd said that dressage was going to be
I
the
said it would be the
sport.
breakthrough sport, and I still stand by the fact that it was.
Yeah. I mean, tell me about London 2012, because you mentioned your book Walking Home, and you write so beautifully about that experience in that book, and the fact that actually you didn't really know that. I mean, obviously you'd had an incredible time, but you didn't know the way that your broadcasting was connecting with people until after the Olympics came to a close, really.
Yeah, and we were going down to Devon and then down to Cornwall just to have a few days away before the Paralympics. And we pulled up to a garage and filled up petrol, and I went in to pay. And no, I was filling up and Alice went in to pay. And when she came back, she said, "You need to go and talk to those kids over there." And I went, "Oh, okay." And she went, "And everyone in the garage is talking about you. Like, this has never happened before. People might say hello or give us a tip, or, you know, what's Willie Carson really like, and does he stand on a box?" You know, that would be your general chat. Suddenly, it was like everybody knew who you were, not just 1 in 10. Everyone knew, and wanted to talk about the Olympics, which was great and easy, and I was happy to do so. But it did suddenly, you know, it was weird. I mean, it still is weird that you're just way more in people's consciousness than. But I'm glad it happened to me when I was, 41 or whatever I was in London. Yeah, 41, and I'm 45 now. So it's kind of, you've got over yourself quite a while ago.
And what does that bring with it? Because I would imagine for somebody like you, it brings a sense of responsibility and a big list of things that you want to do and things that you want to change.
Yeah, there are, and I do keep trying to get the message out there about women's sport, because I think, again, a bit like the Paralympics, I think that has a bigger impact as well. And I think for countries where women still can't vote or can't drive or can't work, and indeed in this country where women are certainly not paid equally, I think it has a very big impact to see strong, powerful, muscular women doing well, being allowed to be competitive and get sweaty and shout at each other, and and being able to celebrate too. You think of those scenes, and you look at somebody like Helen Glover and Heather Stanning, and Heather's in the army, and Helen Glover's just got married to Steve Backshall, but they're bright, strong, brave, intelligent, wonderful women, and they're tall and athletic. Well, look at Catherine Granger and how long she's been doing this and trying to win gold medals, and has won a gold medal in there. But there have been a lot of silvers, some of which have been successful silvers, which indeed this one was, and some have been disappointing silvers, and there are every shade of silver in there. And I just think they don't have to do any more than do what they do, and they're fabulous role models. I'm not expecting them to go out and give great speeches or, lead marches or anything. They don't have to do anything else. But they are. Nicola Adams, another one. Hannah Cockcroft, another one. The Paralympic team, full of them. And I just, there's a deeper strength to all of that I want all girls to feel their strength and know that they can be like that. And there's another thing in there about finding the Olympian within, because I think we've all got it. I don't think any of those gold medalists they weren't made differently to us. They haven't got superpowers. They just found the thing they were good at. They trained really hard at it, and they were determined to be successful. And they kept on and on and on until they were successful.
Do you think that 4 years on from 2012, we're seeing the legacy? Because I recently met a female boxer who hadn't started any kind of sport at all. She wasn't participating until she saw Nicola Adams in the ring.
Well, that, and absolutely. And you look even in the 4 years since London, somebody like Ellie Robinson, who won a gold medal in the 50 fly, she started swimming seriously because she watched Ellie Simmonds in London. She was 11 then, she's 15 now. Amy Tinkler, who competed at the Olympics and got a bronze medal in gymnastics, she's 16. She was 12 when London was happening, and I suddenly thought, there's a 12-year-old watching this now that could end up winning a medal in Tokyo. That's extraordinary. There was a 13-year-old girl swimming on the Paralympic team called Abby Kane. That's amazing, and I do think that there's a lot that it encourages people not just to take up sport, but to believe that it's possible to be there, and that's half the battle.
And what do you think we need to do better? I mean,
more sport in schools,
right?
For starters. I think it'd make a big difference to mums, that as well. I think if the kids stayed longer at school, an hour longer at school doing sport, huge advantage to them, But also for mums, even mums that want to work part-time, I always think it's really difficult. If the kids are coming out at 3:30, how can you have even a part-time job, let alone a full-time job? So that would be a huge ambition of mine, to try and persuade government that the hour of PE in school is not just an added extra that you can do if you want to. It's not an optional thing. It's part of your education. It will make you concentrate better. And you don't have to have it at the end of the day, you can have it in the middle of the day. But just therefore the school day becomes a bit longer.
And what about in terms of coverage and broadcast? Because it feels like the conversation around women in sport is changing. But this Olympics, there was a lot of controversy about some of the comments made by commentators and broadcasters covering the events.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was an intent to offend. And I was with Chris Boardman, and I know one of the comments was his, looking at Laura Trott going up to Jason Kenny saying, "What's for tea?" He could honestly, he would have said, "What's on the telly tonight?" That's what he meant. He didn't mean you're going to cook tea. It was just they're a couple together, he's going to ask her a domestic question. I know that he didn't, because we talked about it afterwards. It's quite interesting now because of the speed with which social media reacts to something, and because of the, it's like putting a lit match into that stack of hay over there. It will go up in 2 seconds. It burns out quite quickly because of it, but it goes whoosh, and it feels really hot if you're the one in the centre of it. And we will all say something stupid over the course of 5 or 6 hours live broadcasting every day.
5 or 6 hours of any given day, if you may.
Any given day, exactly. And I think we've got to still have the scope and the ability to make mistakes. I think that sometimes we do burn people over those flames a bit quick and a bit unfairly. But then one's got to be smart about how do you handle it, and how do you, if you have said something stupid or wrong, how do you apologise? And my feeling is you do it quickly and you do it on air.
Claire, talking about being all right with imperfections and making mistakes, I mean, live broadcast, it's a tricky thing to do, and obviously you're brilliant at it, but you must have made your fair share.
Oh,
and how do you deal with it when that happens?
I'm quite if I make a mistake on air, I will say sorry straight away. Like if I get a date wrong, or I led into something on handball and gave completely the wrong rules of the competition because we'd switched something around, and I'd just been looking at my link into basketball. And so I thought it was the same number of... Anyway, I came off the back of it and said, and I think I said there were 5 players or 7 players or whichever way around it was on the pitch, but those of you who can count will realise that wasn't true, and it's this. So you just admit it and you say, I'm an idiot. But I'm quite strict when I'm in the midst of one of those big events, so whether it's Wimbledon or the Olympics or the Paralympics, I won't look at Twitter, I won't look at mentions. I'll look at my feed because I need to know what's going on, and I need to be looking at, obviously, the updated Olympic things, and a lot of people I follow would be sports people anyway, and you get a sense of the reaction of people you follow who are watching to the event. But I don't want the personal comments then, and I don't want them if they're good or bad, frankly, because the good ones can make you feel like you're better than you are, and the bad ones can totally destroy you, so I'm better off without. Okay. So I'm therefore less sensitive to things like I know there was lots of talk about sexism stuff. I was less aware of it unless I felt it because I'd seen it and thought, so I get less caught up. I can control the Twitchfork mob and the Twitstorm a little easier by not being in it.
You keep it at arm's length.
Yeah, a little bit.
What's next for you then? I mean, now that we've talked about Bake Off
already.
You've
written off Bake Off, so obviously it clearly can't be that. Good question. I'm off on holiday very soon, and I will on holiday start thinking about Charlie's next adventure because I'm quite excited about that. And next year is sort of a bit of a blank sheet because I won't be doing any racing because it's gone to ITV and I'm not on that team. So that's different. And it's not an Olympic or a Paralympic or a Winter Olympic or a Commonwealth Games year next year. So although there are sports events, and obviously Wimbledon will be in there and there are various other things, it looks like I might be doing the America's Cup in Bermuda, because frankly somebody has to. And that would be great, that would be for BT Sport. There are things that I know I'm doing, and crafts I'll do again, but also there are big opportunities, and there are a few sort of factual documentary type things that I would like to do. So it seems a good chance to do them.
Wow. I mean, but it also sounds dangerously like you might have some time off.
No, I don't know.
No, that's not
Well, I will in February. I'll have quite a lot of time off in February.
Okay.
But I'm going on holiday again then.
Will it be a walking holiday? I know that you're...
No, actually, the February holiday is a cruise.
What?
Yes. I love...
Balding on a cruise. You love a
Yes,
cruise?
I love a cruise. Yeah, it's a new thing for me, this. New thing. It's very exciting.
Okay.
This one is from San Francisco to New Zealand.
Wow.
Yeah. Via Hawaii, Samoa, Fiji.
Oh,
I think we go to
incredible.
Fiji. I hope we go to Fiji. Maybe we don't go to Fiji. Maybe it's Tonga. I want to go to Fiji. They won the gold medal in the sevens. That would be exciting. They won the gold medal in the sevens, and you know their coach is called Ben Ryan, and he's got ginger hair. And when Ed Sheeran went to play in, this is a great story, Ed Sheeran goes to play in Fiji, and everybody stops him and goes, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, are you? And he goes, yeah, I'm Ed Sheeran. No, are you related to Ben Ryan? You must be, because they knew it wasn't Ben Ryan, because they knew it, but you must be related to Ben Ryan.
So unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
People call their babies Ben Ryan.
Really?
Yeah.
What, Ben Ryan, the full name?
Yes, the full name.
Not just Ben?
Not just Ben, no.
No. That's something
He's,
to aim
you
for,
know,
isn't
he
it?
might as well be God in Fiji. So cool. And even more so now they won the gold medal.
Well, we wish you lots of luck with that holiday. It sounds like it's going to be
I might have
fabulous.
might have to film a separate documentary on Fiji, because if the ship isn't stopping there, I need to go
It's
there.
got to be done.
Yeah.
Amazing. Claire, thank you very much
You're
for talking
welcome.
to us. Cheers.